Hello everybody, this is the Retro Bear back with the second episode of the juggernaut that is Retro Bear's cartoon collection. Yes, first episode was about 10 days ago, and I think I've probably got maybe about 3 or 4 more to do, of which today is one of those. Thank you very much indeed for tuning in. If you did watch the first one, great, thank you very much. Thank you for everybody who watched the first one. That did an awful lot better than I thought it was going to do. If you haven't seen the first one, I'll put a link in the description below. And all this is going to be is me talking about cartoons, basically. Cartoons are a big part of my life, and any DVDs or VHS I've picked up over the years to talk about and, you know, not provide a potted history. This is not going to be, you know, a definitive history. If you're looking for that, there are other channels for that. This is just somebody who, a fan who loves this sort of thing, who is just proud to show off what he's got and share what knowledge I have of that with you. Because some of this stuff during this series may or may not be, you may or may not be aware of. Some of it may also be things that you remember having thought about for years. And I know there's going to be quite a few bits and pieces. I'm hoping there'll be quite a few bits and pieces during this little mini series I'm doing that will appeal to that. Now today is going to be probably one of those, because knowing the audience out there, knowing my reach on YouTube, I'm not a young person, okay? I know I might look it, but I'm not. Yeah, keep taking the tablets. But this is going to be about an art which, as far as I'm aware, just does not exist anymore. Very, very rarely do you see anything like this. And what I'm talking about today is stop motion animation. Now, it's not cartoons as such, but what do you call it? It falls into the spectrum of animation. I've talked about highlighting some sort of puppet work or fields or programs, things I'm interested in as well. I think that'll come right at the very end, because that is a branch on itself. It's not quite animation, it falls more into kids television, which is slightly different, but we're not trying to do that now. This is slightly different. These are puppets of sorts, but the way they're being animated and moved around is slightly different. The process of stop motion, if anybody, the most probably most up-to-date example that I can think of to bring is Wallace and Gromit. If you've seen Wallace and Gromit, any of the 3 shorts, or the Curse of the Were-Rabbit, that's the one. That is what I'm talking about. Stop motion. It's a process where a figure is made, and you sort of move an arm, take a photograph, take a shot, move something else, take a shot, and so it has that. A very good friend of mine, Ross Borhoho, described this as creepy looking, and it is. It's a very strange, very, very strange process of doing it. But when I was growing up, there was basic animation, which we'll come on to in further series. There was the puppetry work, where you could, you know, like Andy Pandy. I sound really old, but those were sort of, you know, where you could see the strings on the puppets. Really sort of very, very strange. And then there was stop motion, which took that out of it, so the characters looked like they moved on their own, but had that really weird sort of uncomfortable feeling to it. And we got quite a few examples of that in here. Not everything in here is going to be that, because there are some other slightly different ways of doing it as well. But yeah, stop motion, it's a very, very strange way. It used to creep me out as a kid. It really did. It really did. There's stuff in here that I haven't got. There's stuff in here that I haven't got to show you. Of course I haven't, because I haven't got it. I haven't got to show you, have I? No, there isn't stuff in here I can show you, because I haven't got it. But when I'm thinking about this sort of thing, again, so Wallace and Gromit, a prime example. 2 other ones from my childhood, certainly. The Wombles. I remember the Wombles when they first started. That was stop motion with, of course, Bernard Cribbins on the narration. And the other one, which is just going to my head and falling out again. What was the other one I was just thinking of now? I don't know. Paddington. That's it, Paddington. Remember Paddington Bear? When Paddington first started, it was stop motion. Then he got turned into an American cartoon, and then a film. And the other one, which I haven't got to show you here, but I know I do have a copy of it somewhere, is the Flumps. Now, everybody remembers the Flumps. No relation. They little balls of fluff, basically, with feet, arms, and a face, and a little hat. And they were repeated on BBC television children's programming for years afterwards. Again, all these programs, like one series made and was shown for like 20 years afterwards. And people are convinced there's more than 12 episodes of Bugbus. No, there aren't. It's like Fawlty Towers. There's 12 episodes. There's loads of Fawlty Towers. No, there's 12. Are there? Yes, 12. 12 of Fawlty Towers. That's all there are. People get stunned when you tell them things like that. And this is the same sort of thing with the Flumps. You know, one series was made and that was it. They just repeat them ad nauseum for the next 20 odd years. But again, that was another one that was very prominent when I was a kid. There's loads of things like that. So those are prime examples. Anyway, what I've got here, I've got 6 VHS. Yes, VHS. I think, have I shown VHS? Yeah, I've shown wrestling videos on this channel. I have VHS. I have DVD as well in my collection. I have Blu-ray as well. And VHS is making a bit of a comeback now. So these, I'm very pleased to say I got these years ago. I think they've all been unsealed. Well, I know they are. Two of them I bought brand new, 4 of them I bought off eBay when I used to do eBay years and years ago. So there's stuff here which is quite interesting. The first, now this is probably the worst condition video I'm going to show you with a lot. And I know there's a little bit of the older tape rot on it, but not too much. But this was the condition I bought the box in anyway. Now, on here, there isn't much on here that I saw when I was a kid, but there are a couple of programs I saw. So, prime example, we're talking about stop motion animation, but also in here there is some other very basic cartooning. So this was years and years ago when there was this nostalgia for children's television in the very late 1980s into the early 90s. The BBC released a video called Watch with Mother, which was a compilation of all the old black and white kids programs, because that was, people would make programs people may just heard of by name, like Bill and Ben the Flower Pot Men, Muffin the Mule, Andy Pandy, the Wooden Tops. Those are probably the 4 biggest ones that people remember from that era, the 50s. And they were all puppets with strings. And the BBC released a video like that. It became the biggest selling BBC video for many, many years. It outsold everything because my dad bought it. I don't know why. He watched it once and that was it. He never watched it again. I've got no idea what happened to it. But that was it. So that generation there was able to relive it, and it sort of kick-started that feeling for nostalgia. And then they released a second video years later. Didn't do any more after this one in that series. But this sort of crossed over into areas that I was interested in, particularly one program which I've saw at the time when I was a child, never saw again since. So this is the follow-up to that. This is Watch with Mother, The Next Generation. Now you can see that's already scaring the shit out of you, isn't it? That cover is all, look at the eyes. Look at that. Ooh, that is scary, isn't it? That is really scary looking. What a scary looking bunch of characters that are. So what you got there, you got these 3 souls on here, a little girl and a dog, and there's a mouse at the bottom there. That's Mary, Mungo and Midge, in that order. Across the front here you've got Parsley the Lion and Dill from the Herbs. Now here also is not animation, but actually live action, which we'll get to very shortly. That's Tales from the Riverbank. That's Hammy the Hamster. You've got the very creepy Pogle's Wood, 4 characters at the back here. And then finally here, Barnaby the Bear. Barnaby. Now there was a recent children's character called Barnaby the Bear, nothing to do with him. This was a French TV programme. So all those are on this particular videotape. You've got 5 episodes of each one. Now Tales from the Riverbank, which I mentioned, it was broadcast, this episode here, broadcast June 1964. 60 years ago. Can you believe that? 60. This is older than me. Believe me, that is older than me. Now, the great thing about Tales of the Riverbank was they used little pets like gerbils and hamsters and voles and things to recreate a story based on an activity. You know, I'd have like a guinea pig on a boat, little toy boat going down a stream in the studio. Very, very strange to watch. Narrated by Johnny Morris. And Johnny Morris was an absolute king of children's television for 30 odd years with his programme Animal Magic, where it would be later generation remember the Really Wild Show. What's that guy, Steve somebody or other, I can't remember his name now. Not Steve Irwin, I can't remember the guy's name, but he sort of that taken on that mantle now what Johnny Morris used to do, and then Terry Nutkins did, and then Chris Packham did, of becoming the children's Animal Man on television. You know, Animal Man used to come to school. He would come when I was younger anyway. He takes that role on where he would sort of introduce animals in the studio. People could bring animals into the studio, talk about them, and then he'd go and pretend to be a cleaner at the zoo, and he'd interact with all the animals and do funny voices. Honestly, it sounds crap now, but a complete generation, 2 generations of children grew up with that. It ran for so many years until the BBC decided it was old hat, which it was at the time, to be honest with you. But fantastic, and it used to narrate all those anyway. Then we got Pogleswood. Now Pogleswood came from the same studio. They did the Clangers, Bagpuss, Ivor the Engine, small films. It was Peter Firmin and Ivor Postgate. Again, stop motion animation. I never saw Pogleswood. One of the very few I never saw. So I can't tell you an awful lot about it, other than the fact there was a small family. There was a mother, a father, and a little child, and some sort of cat-like pet they used to have. I think there was a witch involved. Well, the witch was very scary from photographs I've seen. You know, again, not sort of thing like that. You don't want that over your bedpost at night because that'll scare the life out of you. But same sort of thing. But again, stop motion. I think it's filmed in black and white originally. I don't think it made it in colour. Yeah, black and white on here as well. There's Pogleswood. Some of you may remember Pogleswood. If you do remember any of these that I don't know about, do let me know in the comments. Then you've got the Herbs. Now the Herbs used to come on. It was a 5-10 minute programme, I think it was. All the characters lived in the bottom of the garden. They were all based around herbs. So you had basil, you had parsley, you had dill, you had belladonna, who was a witch. What's this preoccupation people have with witches in children's television programmes? Scared the living daylights out of them. And they just have all different characters based around a herb. I think Lady Rosemary was the sort of patriarch of the whole thing. And that ran for years. And then parsley and dill span off into their own 5-minute before the news at 5:40, The Adventures of Parsley the Lion. And that 5:40 slot, which we'll talk about very, very shortly, but the children's programme used to finish at 5:40, and before the news came on at 5:45, going back to the 1960s and 70s, there was a 5-minute slot before the news, and they used to put programmes on like this, made programmes specifically for it. So Wombles was in there at one point. The Herbs, The Adventures of Parsley and Lion, the animation The Perishers was in there. The Magic Roundabout was probably the most famous one of the lot. It was a key point because there was a massive viewing churn at that time in the evening with the kids' programmes finishing and the news starting, because all the adults were coming and turn the television on. So the viewership used to go up at 5:40 for the Magic Roundabout. You had like 10, 12 million viewers watching 5 minutes of the Magic Roundabout before the news started. Mad. Different times. It's a completely different subject and video altogether. We got Mary Mungo and Midge. Now this was, I say, slightly different on this one. The girl, the dog, and the mouse. This was an animation, but very, very limited. So it was a lot of still animation or still pictures, and then they sort of moved occasionally. Very, very limited stuff. And it was about a girl, a dog, and a mouse who live in a tower block. Yeah, great. I mean, you know, you could make a full series out of that nowadays, couldn't you? But, you know, learning about aspects of life, looking out across the town, narrated by a gentleman called Richard Baker, who used to read the news and had an incredibly posh voice. He was also one of the sailors in the 1977 Morecambe and Wise Christmas special, the There's Nothing Like a Dame number, which everyone knows about. So, yeah, and again, it was, yeah, twee entertainment, twee at the best of times, but it was, I think the episode sort of started with him saying, this is a town very much like the one where you live. So it was early 1970s. You could see the changing face of Britain. Now we've got all these big tower blocks. We moved on from the very basic Muffin the Mule, you know, posh woman talking to it, to a posh newsreader narrating the style of an everyday girl and a dog and a mouse having an adventure. Weird. I don't know best to explain that. But by far and away, the reason I wanted to get this was Barnaby. Now, Barnaby. Very few people remember Barnaby now. It was a French programme, and it came over in the early 70s. It first transmitted in 1973, April 1973, just before a couple of years before I was born, but they were still showing it a few years afterwards. And the only thing I can remember about it was, I remembered it was very colourful. It was stop motion. It was great. And I say years later, when I started reading up about Barnaby, I found out that it was narrated by a gentleman called Colin Jevons. Now, one of the nothing interesting about Colin Jevons. Sorry if you're still alive and watching this, or anybody knew him. I'm not saying he wasn't interesting, but there's nothing interesting about Colin Jevons. What's interesting about Colin Jevons was, when you were part of a narrator for a TV series like this, one of the prerequisites was you had to sing songs, right? Colin Jevons could not carry a tune in a bucket to save his life. No way at all. I know this for a fact because years and years and years ago, I downloaded an MP3 of him singing the theme tune to this particular... Well, it wasn't a theme tune, it was called Barnaby's Song, and Barnaby sang it in the very first episode. And the man cannot hit a high note to save his life. He's off key. It's terrible. It really is terrible. I would urge people to try and find a copy of this video. if you can try and find it on YouTube online, I'm not sure if it exists or not. I've tried years and years ago to try and to find it, just try and find more episodes of Barnaby, but I could not. But yes, so certainly I remember 3 of those programmes, Merry Mungo Midge, The Herbs and Barnaby were very much part of my time. The 2 oldest programmes were the Pogles and the Tales from Riverbank before my time, unfortunately. But I know that Tales from Riverbank, they did go into colour, and colour right in 1968, I think it was, 68, 69. But yeah, I'm not sure if you can still get hold of this. If you can do, it's yeah, you remember those cartoons from when you were kids, great. That's the video cassette inside. There is a little bit of mould, which you can probably just see developing there, which will probably just need taken care of, because I never saw it. I saw this in the shops a couple of times. I've never seen it since. I must have bought this about 15 years ago off eBay. 70-minute video. Watch Me Brother the Next Generation. Definitely worth having. Now, that takes care of the oddball stuff. Let's now move on to the stop motion, the kings of stop motion. And I mentioned it already. And there's no greater programme. I'm not going to sort of delay it any further. Back in the 1960s, the BBC purchased a French kids children's television programme, which was all a bit dull. The original storylines, when they were translated from French into English, really weren't very interesting at all. So the BBC got a gentleman called Eric Thompson to write the scripts. Eric Thompson, again, I think by typing Eric Thompson and the name of this programme into Google will tell you all you need to know about it. Okay, I'm not going to go into the whys and wherehows, the myths and the stories and the speculation about this. He basically rewrote the entire series based on what he was watching. Not what the scripts were originally. He just sort of watched the programme and then wrote a script about it and narrated it, and that was it. It could be completely different to what the original French version was, and in most cases, well, in all cases, it was. It was completely different. They simply said, there you go, there's a pen and paper, get on with it. And the programme ran, I don't know, was it 12, 15 years, something like that, non-stop? It was just fantastic. And it's disappeared. We've not seen this programme on our television. There was a revival in the 1990s on Channel 4 as part of their breakfast television programmes, which I think Nigel Planer did the narration for and played Neil in the Young Ones. Which was new shows which hadn't been done before. And there was a CGI film recreated in the early 2000s, which did absolutely nothing for anybody. And it just disappeared. I'm not sure if they've even done a new series of it in CGI. They may have done, they may do not. If they have, let me know. If they haven't, let me know. I don't know. But these original programmes, to my knowledge, have not been seen on television for a very, very long time, which is surprising because this programme created so many viewing figures. Jasper Carrot, the comedian, even released a record based around this programme. And it was a reason because it was a double A side. And he got a song which was called Funky Moped, I think it was. That was it, Funky Moped. But it was a double A side with this particular, his sketch about this particular programme. And the record sold based on the sketch rather than the song. And I think the BBC technically banned his record, the audio recording of this particular sketch. Not because it was rude, they just banned it, or they didn't play it. Their words was they say, oh, we're not going to play that, and people say, oh, it's been banned. No, it wasn't banned, they just didn't play it. The programme I'm talking about is the Magic Roundabout. Now, interesting story, my granddad had a set of playing cards at his house, and they were Magic Roundabout cards. So we would go around and we would just get the Magic Roundabout cards out and play Snap and all sorts of different games. They were picture cards, so we could do all sorts of different card games with them. This is a programme which ran for years and years and years on British television, and is a classic of stop motion. 13 episodes, the classic series became a resounding hit with children and adults alike. The Magic Roundabout is in Mr. Rusty's Magic Garden. He's 100 years old and moves very fast because there's always something to do. Then there's Mr. Zebedee, the Magic Jack in the Box. He brings Florence and all the other children to the garden to meet Dougal, the lovable but temperamental Scotty dog, Dylan, the laid-back rabbit, Ermintrude, the delightful felt-hatted cow, and Brian, the happy-go-lucky snail. Now, on this, it does actually confirm here, the original Magic Roundabout was transmitted from October 1965 until January 1977. And I think the Wombles replaced it with Perish. I can't remember. Fred Bassett may have replaced it, something dreadful like that. So it's created by a gentleman called Serge Dano. That was the French version. And the English version was written and told by Eric Thompson, who for years and years, people remember he was used to be on Play School, another children's programme. He is the father of Emma Thompson, the actress. Sorry, actor, say actor nowadays. Actor, sorry. Emma Thompson, a well-known actor and writer and performer. So yeah, it's only an hour long, this video. It's 13 episodes. So each episode was like, you know, 4 or 5 minutes long, 4 minutes long. Nothing like that. Now, I bought this second hand off eBay, which I was very pleased to get, because these were really going out of fashion quite quickly. There's the inside. It's an old tape there with that design on the tape, because we saw the one previously. It was sort of a bit more boxed in, so that's the old tape there. But yeah, quick look at the back of the box. Doesn't tell you what it is. I think if you are very clever and you go on YouTube, you can find this videotape as a standalone file. I know that because you can also find the second one as well. 13 more episodes in the Magic Roundabout. So there we go. There's the back of it again. Yeah, I can tell you some of the episodes on this one again. So we've got Bubbles piano moving Let's Play at Cats. So you can tell by the title of this programme that you know it's just been made up or thought of. Watch the Birdie, Dylan the Sculptor, the Orchestra, Pack of Cards, Toffee River, Oil Wells, Banana Skin, Spaghetti Party, Rain, and Baking a Pie. That one runs slightly shorter at 57 minutes. But yeah, I mean, this is again big part of people's childhoods from the 1960s and 70s here. And again, very ready. I'm not sure if they released any more. They're just 2 volumes of that. I don't know. But I did pick those up years ago, and holding on to those very dearly, because I used to love the Magic Roundabout. Very, very memorable theme tune, which didn't make an awful lot of. Well, it was hardly a theme tune, really. Was it? Something went do 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 do. That was it. That was it. Just kept going round and round like a roundabout. That's what it was. Very, very simple. Had some great incidental music, though, music playing in the background, some really sort of funny music. Honestly, if you can, pick it up. They even made a feature film. How do I know that? Well, I've got Dougal and the Blue Cat, the movie, featuring the characters from the Magic Roundabout. Now, again, this was bought on a whim, because at one point, this video cassette, this was a Channel 5 release on VHS, of which I've got a few of those. They were just sort of release an awful lot of public domain stuff, and then all of a sudden, a few years ago, the price of this sort of went up quite a lot. So I thought I'd better jump on it and grab hold of it. That's the inside. I think it came out on DVD, and I think it's a bit less valuable than it was before. But it says here, something very unusual is happening in the beautiful woods. Strange noises are coming from the disused treacle factory. As always, trouble at treacle factory. And slowly but surely everything is turning blue. And then a blue cat enters a beautiful wood and is crowned king. So Dougal, Ermintrude, Brian, Dylan, Mr. Zebedee, Florence, Mr. Rusty all run to the rescue. Will Dougal have to save the world on his own? It's the greatest challenge ever. It includes the ultimate test of resisting a room filled with sugar. Can you believe they managed to get 85 minutes out of this? And again, original French production, written by, voiced by Eric Thompson. I didn't even know this existed until around the time I was looking into that. Magic Roundabout videos. But yeah, so I believe you can get this on DVD now. Don't think it's particularly difficult to pick up. Dougal appears to be smoking a pipe on the front. That's Dougal, and that's Florence, just out of interest, in case we take a reference to that one. And it's got a Serge Dano autograph, not the real one, just on the front there. So yeah, they even made an 85-minute film out of that. It's like 3.5 hours of Magic Roundabout there. Yeah, that'll scramble your brains, I'm pretty sure. So whatever the French could do, the British could do better. Oh, yes, we could. We could. We could. And this was part of many people's childhoods. This is regularly voted one of the greatest children's television programmes of all time. I am talking about our good old friend Bugbus. Yes, accompanied on the front cover there by Professor Yaffle, the carved wooden bookend on the end of the video box. Madeline the ragdoll, and lots of mice from the mechanical mouse organ which made chocolate biscuits out of breadcrumbs and butter beans. They do, it's in here, it's real. He was just a saggy old cloth cat, but everybody loved him. I'm not sure which re-release of a re-release of a re-release this this video is. Again, I got this about 25 years ago. It's got all the episodes on. Yeah, all, how many? 12, 13, whatever it was. 13 episodes. 13 episodes on a 3-hour video. First time ever this video cassette contains every single one, because they did release them with a few episodes on a particular tape. You can get it on DVD as well. Classic series voted in the BBC poll as the most popular children's TV programme of all time. Features all your favourite characters. We've mentioned Professor Yaffle and Madeline. There's Gabriel, the banjo-playing toad. He's not actually on the front there. He's the only one who's not on. Oh, you can see him. There he is, Gabriel. There he is. He's got his banjo there. Interestingly enough, these two characters here, voiced by a folk singing duo who are still going to this day, and they tour. Well, they were before COVID. They were touring and playing songs from the TV series to audiences who were lapping it up. It's great, isn't it? And it's very, very folk orientated, banjos, washboards, and basic vocals. But yeah, there's some bonkers tunes in this. Absolutely bonkers. 13 episodes. I mean, what can you say about Bugbus that has not been separately? Now, this was not to be sold separately. It was part of a box set, I believe. I've got the other one here. There may have been a third one. I've got a feeling the Clangers may have been the third one. I haven't got the Clangers. Now, I know the Clangers have made a comeback in CGI, but they were another one. And there is another one here which I have got. It's actually a Universal one. So again, even though it was a BBC programme for years, it's fallen into the possession of Universal Pictures. How did that happen? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, everybody loves Bugbus, don't they? And I tell you, there's a couple of really, really weird episodes on here. There's one about a king who seems to be sitting on the throne. And when I watched it a few years back, now granted I hadn't been drinking or smoking anything, I'm pretty sure, because he was sitting on a stone throne, it was very uncomfortable. I'm pretty sure it was a song about piles. Yeah, look into that one if you can. But yeah, and this was just accompanied by, it was stop motion accompanied by animation, again of the limited paper variety or stop motion. Great little songs in it. It's just of that era. Anybody who saw this, put this on straight away and go, do you know what, I transported you back to 5 years old, sat on the television far too close, as we used to do. The other one, so the Clangers may have been the other part, it was from the same production company, Small Films. The other one is Ivor the Engine. Now Ivor's slightly different as well, because this is actually an animation. So it's a paper animation from the same schools we talked about, Mary Mungo and Midge earlier. This one's slightly more because there's a bit more animation to this one. Ivor the Engine, a story about a Welsh train, little steam engine, and his driver Jones, and their adventures through the Welsh valleys. There's a dragon there, which is part of it. Ivor the Engine himself used to sing in the church choir. There's all these little characters down here he comes across as well. All the classic colour episodes that were ever made. Now, here's an interesting fact. This programme originally started life on ITV and was made in black and white. Years later, probably about 10 years later, when it transferred to the BBC, they remade the entire series in colour. They didn't just colour it, they remade it, shot for shot in colour. Now that is a commitment to your cause. Can you believe doing something like that nowadays? There we go, Ivor the Engine. But again, this was another of these programmes that was part of children's television for years and years. Originally made in black and white, the stories, and some new ones were filmed again in colour in the 1970s, but are still animated by the simple, direct method that gave the series its original charm. And again, there's 3 hours and 7 minutes on here. This was video released from 2000, this was, so that's when I bought it. It was part of a box set. So whether I bought these at a car boot or off eBay, I don't know, but I'm missing one, probably the Clangers, I'm guessing. But yeah, so massive part of people's childhood once again there. You may never have heard of it, but it is just so basic, and that's what we had as entertainment when we were kids. That's what we grew on. So there's a big part of that there. There are some there's massive gaps in that I haven't got that I can remember, which I could probably cover it in another episode. I'll get around to, because there are other parts I can bring into it, and I will do that later on. But I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope that sparks some memories for some of the older generation out there. And if you're a fan of animation, you're watching this as a younger person of that, and you've never heard of these sort of things, go and poke around eBay, poke around YouTube, poke around anywhere you can, just see if you can just get snippets or clips or stills or whatever from them. And you know, with VHS making a bit of a comeback, let's be honest with you, you know, we've been talking about VHS an awful lot in this corner of the retro gaming film going community of late. These things might start appearing again. They also might start being going up in price, so it might be a good idea to jump on them very, very quickly. But yeah, just to show you those again, we've had 2 volumes of the Magic Roundabout. We've got the Dougal and the Blue Cat the movie. We've got Bugbus and Ivor the Engine complete sets. And we've also got the Watch Mother the Next Generation. I hope you've enjoyed that. A little bit of a trip down memory lane there. If you have, please don't forget to leave a comment. That would be lovely. Don't forget to put a thumb on the video to tell YouTube that you like this sort of thing, because it will recommend more for you, and it will help the, what's the word they call it, I don't know, not the, yeah, you know, the analytics and things like that. So do thumb it up, it'll be great. Thumb it down if you don't like it, that might help as well. That might give you more of them. Well, if you didn't like this one, you might like that one. You like this one, we'll give you some more. Anyway, that helps with all that. If you're not subscribed before and you come across this video by complete accident and you have enjoyed it, don't let that picture put you off. It's a YouTubing friend of mine from the retro gaming community. I should mention that before I start the video. It's not the sort of, this is not the sort of channel you think it is. No, this is a very good friend of mine. It's a bit of a joke we have. But yeah, if you haven't come across the channel before and you do enjoy it, please subscribe. Please check out the other content. There's a lot of gaming content on there as well, but there's some other interesting bits and pieces. It's not all gaming. There's other bits on it, despite the fact that I'm sitting in the gaming room. But until I get a chance to talk to you again, thank you very much indeed for watching. There'll be another one of these along very, very soon. Until then, until I film it anyway, this is the Retro Bear saying thanks very much indeed for watching. Do take care. Bye for now.